morning, everyone. We're just letting everyone in from the waiting room, and we'll get going with our program in very short order. Thanks for joining us this morning. All right, I think we'll get going this morning. Again, thank you everyone very much for joining us. Good morning again, and my name is Jeff Pugliese. I'm Vice President here at the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce, along with Johanna Bond, who's on the call with us this morning as well. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce virtual member breakfast meeting featuring UConn head women's basketball coach Geno Auriemma, sponsored by Middle Oak. We are thrilled that you can all join us today for this important event, and we look forward to a great conversation with Coach on a number of important fronts. Before turning the program over to Chamber President Larry McHugh, I want to thank those of you who submitted questions in advance, and we will do our best to get to as many of those as we can during our time with Coach this morning. Finally, I want to thank the state and local officials that are with us today, and we have several, and a quick shout out again to Johanna for managing the technical aspect of the event and truly making it happen. So without further delay, it is now my pleasure to turn the program over to the President of the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce, Coach Larry McHugh.
Good morning, everyone. And Geno, many thanks for joining us today. You are just a wonderful coach, but more important to me, just a wonderful human being, person that's always given back. Before starting, we lost an individual that had been at every one of Geno's talks and many more talks of the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce, and that was D. Rowe. So I would like to have a moment of silence for this truly outstanding individual that meant so much to the University of Connecticut. I know Geno was wonderful in his remarks about him, but he meant not only to the University of Connecticut, but I think everyone in athletics in the state of Connecticut. So if we just want to think about D and our own loved ones that have passed away, can we have a moment of silence for D. Rowe? Thank you very much. Geno, I know he's up there looking at you right now, down on you, and be following you through the tournament games. He constantly, when I was board chair, how much he talked about you was, he loved you, and and I know it was vice versa on that. So again, he'll be missed, but he'll never be forgotten. Now I'd like to turn this over to Nathan Grube from the Travelers Update. We're happy to have him back with us. Thank you very much, Nathan. Give us an update on what's going on.
Sure, Larry, thank you. Thanks for everybody for having me on. And I have to say to everybody watching, when you enter these calls early and you're kind of getting ready for the technical side of it, you learn a lot. You learn people's nicknames, you learn all kinds of things. So I highly recommend trying to hack into the feed before the breakfast starts. It's fascinating. Anyway, Larry, thank you. You obviously have a great team. And one of the things we were talking about before we came on was how much really, I mean, you miss something when it's not there anymore, right? And not being able to be there in person at your breakfast, what you've created, it's one of the most unique things I think we have in our state, these breakfasts. And so you really miss it. I mean, you've obviously evolved and, adapted to everybody, but it makes you really appreciate what you've created. So I look forward to that happening in person again soon. And we appreciate that. But tournament wise, Travelers Championship, here we were a year ago, kind of right around this window where obviously the world changed for us from a tournament standpoint. We didn't know what was going to happen going into 2020. It turned into us being one of the first events back for professional sports, really. When you looked at June, we were one of the first 4 PGA Tour events back, one of the really first professional sports to kind of try to figure out how to come back in this. And I have to say, I don't get tired of saying this, our fans, our volunteers, our sponsors, everybody was so understanding of what we were going through and what was happening. But what was really cool, big picture, was it sent a message to, I would say, to the sporting world on, hey, Connecticut, here's how we're going to do this, and we're going to do it in a right way, and we're going to do it in a safe way. And the brand that it put on us was one that I think we should all be very, very proud of, being a part of that lead back into sports. There were some communities that said we're not going to do it. We're going to take a pass till 21. We work with the governor's office, state, local health officials, Sal and his team, and Cromwell, to put on an event that I think we're all proud of. But I think all of us thought, okay, that's great. Let's put that plan in the drawer and let's focus on 21. And then here we are looking at 21. And 21, we tell people that it's going to be better than 20 from a tournament standpoint, but we're not quite back to 19. And, we're excited to have fans back this year in a limited capacity. We're still working through exactly what that's going to be. But people will be back this year. And it's one of the weirdest things. And Andy Bissett and I were walking around last year on 18 on Sunday, and Dustin was coming up as our champion. And we were looking around and we said, it's great that we were able to do this, but man, the people are what makes this event, right? The crowds, the fans, the energy, like that is really the personality of who we are and what makes it so unique. And while we were so excited to have it done on one side, we just could not wait for the fans to come back. And so that's going to be exciting this year. We're 97 days out. We're still working through a lot of the logistics of, what the tournament's going to look like. And you have it all over the board, right? You just had an event in Florida. They had 10,000 people a day down there at the Players. But then at the same time last week, the Canadian Open announced that they're canceled. Their golf tournament in June, the US Open of Canada, they had to cancel it. So you kind of have things all over the board in the industry right now. And we're learning every week how we're going to do this and how we're going to do this the right way. But we're excited to have fans back this year, and there's going to be a lot more information to come in the next 97 days. But excited to be a part of it, and excited to be part of this breakfast. This is always a fun one in March. Coach, so good to see you. And I have to compliment just watching. My daughter and I've watched more UConn women's games this year than I ever have in my life, because my daughter has everything recorded. And all right, we're watching it now. We're watching it here, Dad. Let's watch it on our phones. Let's do this. I got YouTube TV, Dad, so we can watch it on everything. So anyway, I've watched more of this, but what I've seen, I just have to compliment you and your team and Chris and the whole staff, how you have evolved your coaching and how you have adapted to these young women coming in and their mentalities with the game. You haven't just said, here's what we're going to do, and you have to deal with it. You have adapted. And I've seen videos of you with outfits and headbands and shorts, playing with the girls, doing things that I don't think I've ever seen in 20 years of you coaching. But it's a testament, I think, to where you have a commitment to excellence and to winning. But how you get there, you've been able to evolve and adapt and change. And I have to compliment you and your team on that. It's awesome to see. The energy with the girls this year is phenomenal, and it's fun to watch. But we're looking forward to watching even more. And I just want to say thank you for making the time to be here this morning. And we'll see everybody soon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Nathan, and wonderful words about Geno, because he is the best. And you see him on the ads for people having tests and everything like that. He's just part of the fabric of our state of Connecticut right now. Before turning this over to Tom, I would just like to thank Dave Benedict, the athletic director from UConn to Beyond. A couple board members are on, Andrea Dennis Levine and Chuck Bunnell, and Rochelle Rubin, the chief of staff to the board, who means so much to myself personally when I was chairman, and Coleman Levy from the UConn Foundation, all great supporters of both Geno and the University of Connecticut. Tom Byrne, our chairman, is doing a fantastic job this year. I'm very, very proud of him. He continues to lead us through these very, very tough times. Tom Byrne, Middlesex Chamber. Go ahead.
Thanks, Coach. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce's Coach Geno Auriemma Zoom meeting. Thanks to all of you who have joined us today. I'd like to thank Geno for joining us. We know you have a lot on your plate right now, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule for us today. It's not our usual in-person 500 business people sitting in a room with you, so we don't have the energy of the room, but hopefully we can send great energy and positive thoughts through Zoom and help you out as the UConn women's basketball team goes for another tournament win and hopefully a 12th national championship. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank our sponsor for today, Middle Oak. Middle Oak has been a great partner with our chamber for many, many years, and we truly appreciate their sponsorship over the years and their dedication to our great chamber. Now I'd like to introduce Middle Oaks Vice President of Corporate Underwriting, Bill Haggerty, who will introduce the coach. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate it. Middle Oak, once again, is very proud to be the sponsor of this year's breakfast meeting. Corporations, businesses, individuals throughout Middlesex County appreciate what Larry and his staff does with the Middle Oak Chamber of Commerce. We really appreciate it, Larry, and thank you very much. So it was about 2 years ago, believe it or not, I had the opportunity to introduce Geno at this event. And it was the day after St. Patrick's Day. And I tried to get Geno to come on board to the Irish Green team, but I had a tough time because it was the day after St. Patrick's Day. But now I get him 2 days before St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going to give it another shot. And, I did some research and I looked into the Italian Sports Hall of Fame. Okay. And I found these names and I started with A. All right. I started with the letter A, and here are the names I found in the Italian Sports Hall of Fame. Alan Amici, football. All right. Fantastic. Mario Andretti, racing. Eddie Arcaro, horseback riding. Charles Atlas, believe it or not, bodybuilder. And right there, the final A in the Italian Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame, Geno Auriemma. So I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if Geno would at least be our honorary Irish Sports Hall of Fame representative for this year? So again, I did my research, and you ready for this? This is the list of the Irish Hall of Fame that begin with the letter A. We don't have any. We don't have any. We have Tom Brady, we have Jimmy Connors, we have John McEnroe, Whitey Ford, Ben Hogan, but we have no A's. So wouldn't it be great if Geno, become the honorary A for the Irish Hall of Fame? We'd really appreciate that, Geno, if you think about it. But there's a reason Geno's in the Italian Hall of Fame. Great person, and that's all been said already. But you throw on 11 national championships and 3 Olympic gold medals, 2 World Basketball Hall of Fame, World Basketball Championships. There's a reason he's there. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the women's head coach for the University of Connecticut, Geno Auriemma. Thank you, Geno.
I didn't know where you were going with that Irish Hall of Fame thing. You could say the same thing about the Italian Food Hall of Fame and the Irish Food Hall of Fame. You probably get zeros, not just at A, but a whole lot of letters. So those names you mentioned are pretty cool, though. Really cool. I remember that weekend too, going to Chicago. I didn't even know there was an Italian American Hall of Fame. I had no idea. I mean, I thought it's going to be Rocky Marciano, Joe DiMaggio. I no idea what to expect. And when I walked in, and you walk in and you see, this incredible display, and how many great Italian Americans in that Hall of Fame, and the names in every sport, and legends in those sports, and coming to Connecticut, where else is it better to be Italian than to be in Connecticut? I think when everybody landed in New York, some people went left and ended up in Jersey and Philly, and some people went north and ended up in Connecticut and Rhode Island. And like typical Italians, once they settled in, they didn't go anywhere. There ain't a whole lot of them in Nebraska and Montana. So here we are. We're all kind of in here together, and with the Haggertys and the McHughes, and with all those guys. Jeff, you and I, man, like we gotta, in this particular group, we're outnumbered. So I made a lot of friends as soon as I got here, an awful lot of friends. And being able to be the coach for this many years, it's quite unusual, number one. I mean, you don't really get to be in one place more than half of your life. That doesn't happen very often. So to be able to see the university go from being, you know, a regional New England school, you know, thrown in there in a group with URI, UNH, UMass, you know, and to, you know, that old Yankee conference mentality, and to see it grow to what it is today, you know, in those 36 years. It's well, Nathan, you know what? It almost parallels what's happened at the Travelers, to go from, you know, that nice little get together at Wethersfield, you know, nice little spot. Guys come in, everybody shoot 42 under and come in third, you know, and you know, guys leaving their winner's check on the bar when they leave. You know, trying to go in the locker room. You got pros trying to go in the locker room, and some of the members, you talk about Italians, go, yo, what are you doing in here? You know, so you got all that going on at Wethersfield, and now you got this incredible tournament where Dustin Johnson is our reigning champion, and you've got, you know, hundreds of thousands of people coming to see the event, and the millions of dollars that you and Andy and everyone else has raised. And I do think that Connecticut basketball, the University of Connecticut, and the Travelers are three of the shining jewels, I think, of the state in so many ways, just like the hospital, the Jackson Laboratories, and what UConn is doing. So you take all this, and, you know, you go back to what Larry said about D. Rowe, and you think about when D. Rowe was coaching at UConn and the way it started and what he had to deal with and how little he had to work with. And when I met him, he didn't have anything that I have. He didn't have a building like we have, a practice facility, forget it. He had a gym that leaked. He had, you know, a school that didn't think of itself as a national school, as a place that could win championships. And yet through all that, you know, D never, ever, ever lost his sense of, you know, his being, of who I am, his sense of integrity. He never lost his love of what he was doing, the players that he was coaching, the university that he represented, the fans that embraced him like a lot of us did, or wanted to embrace him and throw him in the Connecticut River like a lot of other people, you know, because God forbid they couldn't beat some of the teams that they asked them to beat. So, you know, we lost a guy like D, and we lost a piece of ourselves. We lost a piece of Connecticut history, and we lost a great friend and a mentor, and yet he's still a big part of it. Always will be a part of it. That's why we put his name in the back of our jerseys, because he's never far from us. And I wish he was here, because I didn't want it to go this way. You know, if D was going to pass, I wanted it to be at a time when we could all probably fill Rentschler Field with all the people that would come from all over the world to honor, you know, that man that we all love so much. And the NCAA tournament was one of his favorite times, because he would jump on a plane, you know, he'd go with the men and watch them play, then jump on a plane and come watch us play. And he was always, you know, meeting people and having a great time. And the NCAA tournament became pretty much his favorite time of the season. So we're going to miss him tremendously at this year's tournament. You know, this past season has been incredibly difficult for all of us. I can't tell you how challenging it's been, not knowing when your next game is, not knowing if you're even going to have a game, not knowing if you're going to have players available. And I just had a couple of my young players, 2 freshmen, say to me recently, and kids never would say this before, Coach, you know, I don't understand why you get mad at us sometimes when we don't do what you want us to do. I mean, we're young. You know, like, give us a break, would you? And I'm like, they have no problem just telling you, listen, you're just gonna have to be patient. They're like, if you think we're gonna get this right away, you're crazy. And Nathan was talking about how you change as a coach. What you have to do is you have to like coach with one eye open, and that one eye is only looking at all the stuff that they're doing good. Because if you open the other eye and you see some of the other stuff that they do, you get out of coaching immediately. Because watching these guys is like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen stuff this year that, and they'll say, you're exaggerating. I said, no, honestly, I've seen stuff this year that I haven't seen in 35 years. And they think I'm kidding. And everybody that watches this, I love your team. They have so much energy. They play so great. Their enthusiasm. God, you know, the way they do this, the way they do that. I'm telling you, if you'd have come to 3 of our practices, Nathan's been up, you know, and brought his daughter up. You come up and you watch 3 days of our practices, you will go home and go, oh my God, I don't think they're going to win any games. I don't think they're going to make the tournament. And then all of a sudden I look up and we're #1 in the country. And I went into the team. I said, does this look like the #1 team in the country to you guys? I said, because it doesn't look like it to me. And they just look at me and go, yeah, we're better than everybody. And I think they've all taken on that personality of a lot of these freshmen, because our juniors are not like that. They don't think like that. That's not who they are. Our sophomores, that's not who they are. But these freshmen walk around like they've already won 11 national championships. I remind them all the time, you know, you guys haven't even played at one NCAA tournament. And they'll look you right in the eye and go, so, you know, and every time they make a mistake, they got an excuse for everything. You know, Pace throws the ball away. I said, you know, you get trapped and you throw the ball away. I said, you think that's going to work? She goes, I didn't throw it away. It slipped. Like, I mean, there's an excuse for everything. Nika will come down and no look pass that'll hit CD in the back of the head. And she'll go, well, that kid should have cut. It's unbelievable, the stuff that they say, what they do. So you got to coach with one eye open, one ear closed, because you don't want to hear what they have to say. And then you got to like enjoy all the good stuff that they do. And, you know, for an old guy like me, who's used to, this is how we do it, man. You know, we're like the Rockettes. Everything's got to be perfect. You know, everything's got to be perfect. Every step. You know, it's just not there. It's not there. And maybe that's why it's been somewhat, you know, invigorating, because they make a lot of bonehead plays. And then the very next play, they'll do something to make you go, wow, these guys are going to be really good, you know, and they're so young and they're going to be so good. I got a 6'6" freshman, Piaf, who every time she walks by me, what's up, Big G? I'm like, where am I back? Where am I back on my softball team when I was 28 years old? Like, what is this? I mean, I'm old enough to be her grandfather. What's up, Big G? Like, what world are these kids from? Like, I don't understand this. So you just got to roll with it, you know. And it's been pretty entertaining, and it's been challenging. And then, you know, here we are. And tonight we're going to find out who we play. And it's not like, where are we going? Where's the first and second round? Where's the regionals? You know, where's the Final Four? You get on a plane, everybody goes to Texas, and 3 weeks later, somebody leaves there as a national champion. And there's been no home games this year, and there's been no road games. So that's what it's going to be like in the NCAA tournament. You know, there are no home games and there's no road games. Every game is the same. It's just practice with uniforms on against a different team. You know, a kid comes down and makes a awful play. And the reaction from the crowd, well, there is no crowd. So the reaction is 0. Kid comes down and makes an amazing play. And the reaction is 0. So then the people on TV tell me, Coach, These are the highest ratings in the history of UConn basketball. We outdraw everybody on TV. So I'm thinking, okay, so for as much as fans have not benefited from being at our games, a lot more fans have taken advantage of watching us on TV. And, you know, SNY does an unbelievable job. Those people are first class in everything that they do. And, you know, in some of the Fox games, you know, they're new to us, so they'll get used to it. They'll get used to how we do things. But all in all, that's the way it's gone. We're excited to start the tournament. We have no idea, you know, who our bracket is, who's number 1, 2, 3, 4. We expect to be a number 1 seed. Anything beyond that, we have no idea. So we'll see what happens. We're relatively healthy. You know, at this time of the year, something always hurts. Somebody's always sore, but every team is dealing with that. So we're relatively healthy, and we got to hope that our young kids can handle the pressure of the NCAA tournament. They've never been there. They don't know what it's like. You know, if they handle it the way we handled the Big East tournament, then we'll be fine. We'll be fine because they handled that way better than I thought they would, and the celebration after was so unique. You know, we won so many of these tournaments. We won. So I was talking to somebody recently at school, and they said, you know, since 1988, 89, when you won your first Big East championship, it's 32 years, 33 years, whatever it is. So there's 2 championships at stake every year, regular season and tournament. So 2 times 33, what's that? 66 championships have been available to us in those 33 years. 56. And I think we won like 54 or 55 of them, something like that. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. You know, you could walk anywhere in our building. You know, you could go get a soda from the vending machine, and you're liable to step on a conference trophy, you know, because they're all over the place. We don't have any place to put them. And it's incredible what's happened in postseason play and regular season play at UConn. And I'm just thrilled and honored to be a part of it. And as I said, this is the best time of the year, and we'll see what happens, you know, starting the 21st or 22nd. That's all we know. We either play the 21st or we play the 22nd.
All right, Coach, I'm going to jump in here if you don't mind. Jeff Pugliese with the Chamber team. Thanks for the shout out before. I'm going to jump in for some Q&A. And we have a big crowd with us this morning, as we always do for you. And I have a couple questions that were sent in advance. Some you've probably seen 1,000 times, some may be new. So we'll kick it off with more of a comment. It comes from Greg Shook, who is president and CEO of Essex Savings Bank and a great friend to many of us, great Chamber member. And I just want to kick off with this one. He says, a large thank you, Coach, for entertaining us in a closed world. My wife and I literally lived through the season, which every game we have been and will remain diehard fans. Your success breeds pride and true grit, passion, and never give up attitude. All the best to you and your entire program. So I wanted to kick off with that. That's certainly a sentiment that we all share. And we look forward to cheering you and the Lady Huskies on in the coming weeks. So now on to the questions, if you don't mind, Coach. This first one's from Joe Balskus, and he writes, out of all the motivational speakers that we deal with, they all profess that we have been able to achieve great things, but success is not overnight. It is a consistent system of excellent habits. What do you do consistently to ensure that your unparalleled success continues day in and day out? And what are some of the habits that you enjoy or do not enjoy day in and day out that you can offer to the rest of us?
Well, the one thing we do day in and day out is try to recruit the right kids, because without that, I don't think you can have long-term success. So you've got to recruit the right human beings, you know, not just the right basketball players, but you got to get the right people. It's not as much What did the one coach say one time? It's not about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmy and Joes. It's the people that you get that make it all work. So we have to get the right people. That's number one. And that takes, some people think recruiting is easy. It's not, because there's only 5 or 6 kids that can play here every year, and everybody in America wants them. And not all 5 or 6 of those kids want us. So that's the big part of it, recruiting. The other part of it is we try to be consistent every day. We try to show up for work every day and be the same. Very little drama, very little, extraneous stuff that doesn't matter. We don't waste time on things that don't matter. Building a culture, it takes a lot of work and effort, like you said, and every day you have to check up on it, because every day there's something that is going to happen that's going to challenge that culture. What do I enjoy? I enjoy as they grow and as they take on leadership roles in that culture, that as freshmen come in and are asking, why do we have to do this? And as juniors, they're telling the other freshmen, hey, this is what you have to do. You understand? So they grow and they keep the culture alive, and they push it forward, okay, each and every year. The things I don't like are now more than ever the involvement of so many other things in these kids' lives and in the program. That's made it incredibly more difficult to connect with the players, to have them be independent, thinkers, to keep everybody out of their ears, keep all the noise away from them, from social media especially. So there's a lot of things pulling at the kids, and you're just one voice. You used to be the only voice. You used to be the main voice and the only voice. Now there's so many, you're just one of those voices. And that has become the biggest challenge, I think, for all coaches.
Appreciate that, Coach. Very interesting. This next one's from Bill Curlin. He's been coming to these breakfasts for a long time now, big fan. And he asked, with a current roster of 12 very good basketball players and no one graduating this year, how will you be able to introduce 3 more really good freshmen next year and still be able to manage playing time and the like? And how will you recruit for 2023 with that problem? And wouldn't every coach want this problem? So Billy's looking ahead for you, Coach. He's looking beyond this year.
Yeah. Well, when you say you have 12 really good players, you have 12 players on your team, but there's varying degrees of good. And some are outstanding that you see every day. Some are not quite there. Some are working to become good players. So there's this assumption all the time that when you sign 3 kids or 4 kids, or in this case, 5 or 6, that wow, especially with our fans, if you listen to our fans, they just signed 5 kids. I bet you that's the new starting lineup. Well, what about the kids we have coming back? So everybody wants to talk about the recruiting aspect of it. But as you find out when kids get here, we have 6 freshmen, 7 new players. We have 6 freshmen. And then we had one join us in January. So of those, 3 are getting a lot of playing time. So you're not going to bat 100. So all these kids coming in, yeah, we all want them to be really, really good. But the reality of the situation is not all of them are going to be at the same level. And some are going to play more than others. And here's the other thing that throws a wrench into all this. The NCAA has said that because this is a crazy year and because there's a lot of ups and downs and pauses and whatever, everybody that plays this year gets an extra year free. So not only do you have guys not graduating, you have guys coming that everybody gets another year. So add that into the mix, and we've already got 2 kids committed for the following year. We can't say who they are yet, but we already got 2 kids that have committed for the following year. And and we're not done with that year. There'll be another kid in that class or 2. So yeah, it's going to get crowded. It's going to get crowded up in stores, and the kids are going to have a hard time getting on the court.
Wow, interesting. Thanks, Coach. We look forward to following that, certainly. So we looked ahead a bit, and Kenny Landy from Smith Brothers, another great member of ours, wants to look back a bit. And he asked, Coach Auriemma, I've been enjoying the perfect season programs on SNY, but after watching all of them, I'm wondering if you have the courage to pick the best UConn women's team of all time. And Kenny notes, with all due respect to the Taurasi Cash Bird teams, I'd bet on the Tina Charles Maya Moore championship teams. And he asked for forgiveness if you've had to answer this 1,000 times already.
I know. And that's the problem. If you say that Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Swing Cash team, was the best team ever, and you say, well, no, the Tina Charles Maya Moore team, Renee Montgomery team was better, 10 people will tell you you're crazy because they'll tell you Stewie's team was better. And Stewie and Stephanie Dolson and Bria Hartley and Kalina and Tuck and Mariah Jefferson and Gabby Williams and all that whole crew. So I think whatever era you love watching us and you think that's the best one, I would say stay with it. Don't change your mind. If you think that's the best one, that's the best one. If you ask me what's my best one, I think any team that went undefeated is a great team. Great team in order to be able to do it. So we've had 6 undefeated seasons. The rest of America combined in its history since the NCAA started, I want to say it's had 2 or 3. So, all 6 of them were my favorite.
Awesome. Love it. Great stuff, Coach. Thank you. This next one, we have a few folks that are wondering about the transition to the Big East Conference, how that's gone, and how has that changed your approach or the management of the program in any way?
Well, for me, it's been great. I've loved every minute of it. This is where we belong. This is where I grew up as a coach. Obviously, the league is different. It's not what it used to be. Before we separated, it was the best league ever. People forget, maybe they don't, but, there's 16 men's teams in the Big East. There were. And there were 16 women's teams. That's 32 teams. We had a year or 2 where 20 of those 32 teams got into the NCAA tournament. That's 20 teams out of 128. That's how good that league was. And every night you were playing a top 10, top 15 team in the country. And, we used to go undefeated in that league. And that's not the league that we came back to, obviously. Nothing's the same. But it's a league where it's harder to win, even though it may look like it's not. Look at the scores. It's much harder to win in this league. The coaches are unbelievably diverse in terms of how they play. You have to play so much differently in this league than you do in almost any other major league, in none of the Power 5 schools, because the teams in this league, they recruit great shooters. So every kid on every team that we play against can shoot the lights out. So it's hard to guard them. And luckily we play really, really good defense, and that's a big part of our success. But the travel is better. The rivalries are better. But being back in the Big East for me, my staff, and my program is not nearly as significant as being back in the Big East on the men's side. Because that that move made sure that Connecticut athletics can survive going into, the future. Because without that, it wasn't going to happen. So this move was really about making men's basketball where it is right now. Another, back to an NCAA tournament team that's highly regarded around the country with the job Danny has done and the competition that they play against and the way they play, that was why the move to the Big East was so important. For us, it was, yes. But for the University of Connecticut itself, if it didn't happen, we would not be competing at this level much longer.
That's great insight, Coach. Appreciate that. And you mentioned the men's team and the athletic department as a whole, and something we all cherish. And UConn's so fortunate to have a great program overall. What are some of the other sports that you follow closely on campus other than Coach Hurley's team? You keep an eye on the baseball team, any of the other teams that you care to share on?
Yeah, I was just checking the baseball score. They're down in Texas, and they had a shootout yesterday. And Coach Penders, I tell everybody, I think he's the best coach at the University of Connecticut. I mean, that guy's unbelievable. What he's done, the way he's done it, with the facilities. Heck, all the kids that he recruits were playing in a better stadium than what we had here. And now he's got the #1 stadium in the entire league. So I'm so happy for him. And he's incredible. Our ice hockey team. I was supposed to go to that game yesterday. They were playing Providence College. And Coach Kavanaugh has done a phenomenal job. And they're in the SEC football of ice hockey. I mean, you talk about every night for them. They're playing against 3 or 4 pros every single night. 3 or 4 NHL players are playing every night. So for them to be where they are without a facility on campus like everybody else is, and when we get that done shortly, then they'll be able to recruit any kid that BC or BU or anybody else can recruit. So I spend a lot of time following those guys, and obviously, I go to football games in the fall. I was talking to our softball coach recently, and I don't know if you've been up on campus recently, but if you see the softball field, oh man, it's unbelievable. And she was just over the moon talking about it, and she wants me to throw out the first pitch, and I'm like, underhanded or can I throw it the regular way? So we got to, we're going to have that discussion. But a lot of these kids, they don't get the recognition. They don't receive the attention, the media attention. And I try to, but with our schedule, I don't get a chance to see as many games as I would like.
Cool. Appreciate that answer, Coach. If Coach Penders needs an extra guy, have him give me a call. I got some eligibility if you want to shoot me. Back to hoops here for a second. It actually deals with USA basketball. And we just are curious if you can talk about that experience, what that meant to you. And obviously you have a number of players that are very much involved in USA hoops. And do you still follow the program closely? Anything else you want to share on USA basketball?
Well, I remember the very first time I was asked to do anything with USA basketball was 1992 or 93. And actually it was in San Antonio. That was my first time ever there coaching a youth team of high school kids. And little known fact, one of the teams that beat us was a team that had Nikisha Sales on it. And she was on the other team, and she ended up making a couple free throws with like 1 second left to beat us. And this is, then I get back home and I read in the paper that Nikisha says, yeah, I really like Geno and I really like CD, but I'm not going to Connecticut. I almost about had a heart attack. She lives in Bloomfield. I mean, you're not going to Connecticut. So that was my first experience with USA basketball, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people, the idea of, you're representing the U.S. You're getting to work with some of the best athletes in the world as they get older. I got a chance to coach Diana Taurasi while she was still in high school, right before she became a freshman at UConn. So that gave me some insight. Traveling all over the world, learning an awful lot about how the international game is and what you can learn from the way they play, and some of the things that we've been able to incorporate here in our program, that I learned from those coaches. And the pressure that comes with coaching an Olympic team is, trying to win at UConn. I'm sure there's, you feel the pressure of having to win a national championship, and that's one thing. When you're coaching the Olympic team and you're playing, and that if you don't win a gold medal, it's a lousy season, it's a lousy 4 years, and that you have to wait 4 more years to get another shot at it. That's the most pressure I've ever felt in my life, and you never have enough time to get ready. But at the same time, I was coaching the best players in the world, so I felt pretty good about our chances. But it's not elimination. It's not a series. You get one shot at it, so you lose any game along the way in those last 3 games and you're out. So that's probably the most pressure I've ever felt. But I was fortunate that both times I coached the Olympics, I had Sue and Dee in the backcourt. So, I just said to those guys, listen, make sure we win. In typical Dee, she goes, yeah, just stay out of the way. We'll be fine.
Good stuff there, Coach. Well, you did such a good job on the global stage and made us all very proud. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more if you're game, and we're going to send it back to Coach McHugh for the close here before we wrap up. But this next one's back to this team, and it's about your group of outstanding freshmen. Have they changed the way you've coached? Have they changed your approach at all? This is from Cheryl Waterbury from Connecticut Water Company. Sorry about that.
Yeah, a little bit. As I was saying earlier, when we started, I've had to adjust, what I see, and what you see now is completely different than what you saw, back when I first started. We have 6 freshmen. Well, in 1988, 89, when we had Megan Patterson was on the team, and Wendy Davis and Debbie Bear and Stacy Wetzel, and we had Shannon Solon. We had 6 freshmen, and they thought that I was the most important person in the world, and every single word that came out of my mouth, they thought it was gospel. And we ended up winning the Big East Championship with 6 freshmen. That was back in 1989. Now, fast forward, these 6 freshmen, every word that comes out of my mouth, they think it's like a traffic light in Italy. They think it's a suggestion. I have to tell them all the time, guys, I'm not suggesting that you do this. I'm telling you, you have to do this. And they look at me like, well, yeah, okay, well, we'll let you know whether that's important enough. So that's how much has changed. And you have to kind of, roll with it sometimes, but you also have to understand that we have certain standards here and we can't. So the fact that we could win a championship in 88, 89 with guys who did everything exactly the way I told them to do it. And I don't know how many years later we won a championship in the Big East with guys that I just make suggestions to. So, we've come a long way as a coach.
Absolutely. Great stuff, Coach. All right, I think one more and then I'll get it back to the Big L here. But it's about the recruiting class again. And do any of your recruits that you have coming in next year remind you of any of your current or past players? And do you have any truly unique talents coming in?
It's always difficult to project a high school kid and where they're going to be when they get to college. If you'd have said to me, how good is Stewie? I would say, wow, I mean, she's unbelievable. But did I know she was 4-time Final Four MVP unbelievable? No. So if somebody would have said to me, hey, how good's Renee Montgomery? She's pretty good. She's really good. I think she's going to come in here and have a huge impact. Did I think she was going to lead us to an undefeated season and be 2-time All-American? No, I didn't know that. You're thinking she's going to be pretty good, you know? So you recruit these kids, you recruit Nafisa Kyer, and you say, this kid's really good. She works really, really hard. Then she gets to Connecticut and she takes that to a whole nother level and becomes something that you go, everybody's like, man, we knew she was good, but we didn't know she was this good. So it's hard to project exactly what's going to happen when they're in high school. But what the kids coming in next year, one's already here, Sailor's already here, and she's really smart. And you can tell she knows how to play, and she's great at around the basket and getting to the basket. And everybody knows, the kid from down around DC, down in Maryland, AZ Fudd, who's, she's just a great all-around player. If you think about Kalena Mosqueda-Lewis or Katie Lou Samuelson or, Diana or any other great shooter that we've had, Sue, she's probably, as a high school kid anyway, as good, if not better shooter than any of those guys. And it's uncanny. I mean, it's just the ball goes in the basket. The ball goes in. And she really knows what she's doing out on the floor. And we have a kid from Mass coming in, Caroline Ducharme, who's about 6 foot, 6'1". She kind of reminds you of like Carla Berube, Lou a little bit. She can shoot. She's got a little bit of edginess to her. So that you've got those 3 kids that I think are going to help. And then you've got another 6'5" kid coming from up around, the Buffalo area, Amari DeBerry, who's a little bit like Liv. She's long, she takes up, covers a lot of space, can shoot, can pass. So we've got a little bit of everything coming in. It's just a matter of how they adapt to college life and how they adapt to the college game. And that you never know until they're here.
Very good, Coach. All right, we're going to send it back to Larry, but I enjoyed our conversation. Best of luck to you, man. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we look forward to being along for the ride. Back to you, Coach McHugh.
Okay, great. Geno, as usual, fantastic. Want to wish you the best as you move forward through the NCAA. And as everyone in Middlesex County is very, very proud of you, not only as a coach, but more important, as a leader in our state of Connecticut, and has interjected so much positiveness into our state, which is so, so important. Nathan, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next month on Zoom. Tom, also thanks. Middle Oak, thank you, Bill, for your sponsorship. And again, to everyone, sun always shines in Middlesex County. Go Huskies! Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Coach. Go get them.
Thank you.